Venezuelan Vice President Delcy Rodriguez met with the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov in Turkey, a couple of days after senior U.S. officials met with the Maduro regime in Venezuelan capital Caracas to discuss oil businesses. According to different media outlets, this meeting between Delcy Rodriguez and Lavrov took place in the Antalya Diplomatic Forum in Turkey, where Venezuelan Foreign Minister Felix Plasencia also made presence. So on her Twitter account, Delcy Rodriguez, the Venezuelan Vice President, explained that she met with Lavrov to discuss Venezuela-Russia bilateral relations. However, it is an undeniable fact that it remains quite unclear what else they spoke about. The Biden administration wants Venezuela to move away from Russia's sphere of influence, as we reported last week. However, it is quite important to point out that this won't happen, basically because of compromise. Over the last few years, since former dictator Hugo Chavez decided to become an ally of Vladimir Putin, on all these years, the Russian dictatorship, the Russian regime has gathered a lot of compromise involving some of the most prominent members of the Venezuelan regime, including Defense Minister Vladimir Padrino Lopez, who is a close friend to his Russian counterpart Sergei Shoigu. In addition, there is a lot of Venezuelan money in Russian banks, especially the money from different Venezuelan oligarchs and the money of the Venezuelan state-controlled oil industry, PDVSA, which decided to essentially hide their money on Gazprom Bank, which is one of the most important Russian banks. But this bank decided to freeze this money in order to prevent getting sanctioned by the former Trump administration. On the other hand, another reason why Venezuela won't move away from Russia's sphere of influence, despite the different negotiations that are taking place with the Biden administration, is the fact that Russia could be actually quite happy with Venezuela negotiating with the U.S., because this way the Venezuelan regime will finally have the enough amount of money to pay the incredible amount of debt that they owe to Russia. So this meeting between Delcy Rodriguez and Sergei Lavrov is essentially one of the main evidences that this won't happen. The Venezuelan regime won't move away from Russia's sphere of influence. And actually it is quite naive to think that a government cannot make alliances both with the United States and Russia at the same time. And the greatest example of this reality is essentially the Nicaraguan regime, which over the last few years has been an ally not only of Washington but also of Moscow. So the Venezuelan regime could easily take this same step. So it is an undeniable fact that it's quite difficult to predict what is going to happen, because we need to remember that nowadays the world is experiencing the consequences of the invasion that Vladimir Putin decided to execute against Ukraine. So these negotiations with Venezuela, as we said on the previous episode last week, only responds to this reality, because we need to remember that over the last few years, Venezuela has actually been an enemy of the U.S. But the fact that the U.S. wants to replace the oil that it stopped buying from Russia from Venezuelan oil simply won't happen, because the Venezuelan oil industry is in shambles. And the other reason that the Biden administration wants to get out from these negotiations, which is making Putin to lose one of the main allies in the region, that also won't happen. It is almost impossible that outcome could come out true, because precisely what I just said. So of course we're gonna see how this whole situation develops, and of course we will be explaining this here on this channel. Reporting from Medellin, Colombia, Luis Orozco, Newsweek.